This is an emergency broadcast. If you're hearing this, there's likely a pandemic, there'll be zombies on the way to your location, a shortage of leather harnesses, so more than ever, it's wise to remain indoors and make the most of Zwift. In my own fitness, I've made massive gains using Zwift. In particular, it's racing. By their very nature, they are hard. Yet I've never lacked the motivation to complete a race, and in fact I've been able to push myself beyond my initial expectation every single time.
That was really good fun. Zwift just makes me ride hard, always, when I'm on it. Even if I try and go for an easy spin, I end up going for the sprints.
But yeah, that's the joys of Zwift.
In the world of structured training programs, Zwift races have a bad reputation for being a chaotic force, a foolhardy way for an athlete to derail their training. However, what if you could harness the unique and powerful stimulus of Zwift racing and combine it with the objective structure of a training program? This is what I've been able to achieve, and I want to share with you my simple, replicatable template to better utilize the powerful stimulus of Zwift and its racing in your own training towards almost any cycling goal. My current personal goal is to increase my FTP. This is the fitness that allows me to push my maximum power for an hour. So I've designed an example 5-week training block to better explain. I'm going to use a training method that broadly fits into the 80-20 polarized category, with minimized fatigue through low TSS and best attempting to maximize the IF, the intensity factor. I'll be incrementally adding one short, sharp interval session per week in order to increase the intensity over time. Overall, to complete the program each week, I'll need 8 to 10 hours in which to train. So first off, I use Zwift most effectively in 2 ways. I incorporate Zwift races where intensity is required because that is what they are great at. My heart rate is never higher, more consistently than it is in a Zwift race. I then use Zwift's custom workout builder to inject variety into the rest of the around 80% I'll need to be spending in zones 1 to 2 to make it more interesting. So first let's get into the racing. I went back through my Strava, cataloguing my experience over 300 Zwift races, using objective load measurements such as training stress score and intensity factor to quantify each of them. By doing this, I was able to find patterns, common denominators, that would enable me to be more objective about the training load and fatigue of a given Zwift race, to then design a training program around it. I discovered almost exclusively that each race will inflict a TSS as low as 50 and maximum at a rare extreme 120. The intensity factor would always be 85 to 100%. These critical markers are dependent on 2 important factors: the race's terrain and distance, which will also factor in time. The luxury of a Zwift race is that you can pick the course that you're going to be racing on, which means that you'll have control of both of these factors. I have never picked any old Zwift race randomly, ever. In the context of building FTP, let's go to Zwift Power and select the kind of race that fits the bill. Select a filter by your 2 course variables. First, distance. The larger the distance, the more accentuated the training stress score. Especially with long flat courses, for me, towards FTP building, I would avoid these unless you're focusing on endurance or weight loss. I pick races that are around 28 kilometers, no more than 50 kilometers, which will ensure that the session is no more than 40 minutes and a maximum of 1 hour 15 minutes per race. When training with the intensity required to adapt your body, you won't need any longer, and more time than this will just be digging a hole too deep. Second is the type of terrain. Does it have long climbs, short climbs? Is it completely flat? Choose a course profile that will most benefit your training goal. This is broad, but if I want to get good at hills, then I want to choose a course with lots of hills in it. The more pinch points, hill climbs, the more intervals, and the shorter the course, the more accentuated the intensity factor. I'm looking for a session with high intensity intervals in zones 5 to 7, under 5 minutes for each interval, so I'll pick a landscape that has deliberate pinch points where brake moves will be forced. So select a filter by hilly terrain and pick accordingly. The resulting session will achieve stimulating race pace unpredictability within the bounds of an IF between 85 to 100% and a TSS as low as 50. These two variables will likely alter depending on your goal and the point in the timeline of your training program, but the point is to quantify based on them and integrate into your training program with purpose. What's great is that the courses that meet your requirements will be regularly occurring on a daily basis and repeated weekly. This means you can design an effective calendar of Zwift racing weeks in advance or on the fly. Just use your target distance and terrain as guides. Zwift races are a unique and powerful tool with which to train by as long as you're objective about what you're getting yourself into. Don't just race for race's sake. You'll likely be endlessly doing long climbs or flat races, whatever you like best, into a hole of needless fatigue. Make your next race count. This is what my 5-week block looks like with races included, my example training plan for increasing my FTP. So that's the intensity sorted, but there are many hours in a 10-hour weekly plan to fill, and this is where the workout builder comes in. I need to be doing more than just racing in Zwift to get the most out of my indoor training and reach my goal, and I want to be able to keep the longer, less intense sessions varied and thus more interesting. And so something I've found really effective about Zwift is its ability to create your own customized workouts very easily and jump right into them. In between my 1 to maximum 4 intense races in a week's training, I need to be doing up to 4 less intense sessions. This means I'll create a workout 1 to 3 hours in length, on average around an hour 45 minutes. An added note for those with smart trainers, for longer sessions with big blocks of a single zone, so say zone 2 for 3 hours, I've switched on erg mode, which put simply ignores the undulating gradients of Zwift's terrain, setting the terrain resistance to automatically meet your targeted power within the block. The benefit of this is that it means you can concentrate mainly on a desired cadence, staying smooth with it. It's great for long, meditative sessions, which is definitely something I enjoy. However, I mostly do not use erg mode in my workouts, for the very reason that Zwift's undulating terrain is a big part of what keeps me on my toes in order to maintain a consistent power to meet the target watts of the workout. Variety and the challenge makes for a more interesting session. Maintaining a target power through your pedal stroke despite the gradient shifts is a valuable skill and something I want to practice when I have the opportunity. I switch erg on sparingly because no road, real or in a Zwift race, is mono resistance, and any time I can train technique is even more valuable. So this is how my example training block looks if I was using Zwift exclusively as my training tool. When I originally wrote the whole idea for this video down, we weren't in the middle of a pandemic, and it seemed silly that you would just be indoor riding. The great thing about a structured training plan is that each individual session is designed to build objectively towards a larger end goal of increasing your fitness. The bottom line is that you can be assured all the pain is going to be worth it in the end. However, the time will come during any plan worth pushing yourself through when you are tired, the excuses are biting, and no matter how well designed a plan is, your motivation to give everything of yourself in the next session is going to be lacking. Personally, it is actually the predictability of a plan structure, one prescribed workout after another, in the past that has made a structured training plan feel stale, and I've even fallen off plans entirely due to a lack of motivation, and the excuses won. This can be down to a badly designed plan, but at some point, if you want to gain, it will get hard, and it comes down to a mental game of excuse fighting. So I need my riding to be as stimulating during the session as possible, and this is why I find great value in the unique stimulus of Zwift's racing, and the combination of this with the custom workouts has allowed me to stay focused, stay on my training plan, to make massive gains and get great results. My hope is that this helps you in some way to achieve the same. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you thought it brought you any value at all, appreciate a like or give it a share with someone else in lockdown. Feel free to ask me any questions across my social media. Give me a follow on Strava, Ash Beach. I'm also on Instagram as well. Stay safe, ride hard, become a disciple of the blood cult, and I'll see you in the next one. 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 And I'll see you in the next one.